Hey everybody, welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, your source for Second Amendment news. Today's news is out of the state of New York, and it's not typical of what you would expect, like they're trying to control guns. They're actually trying to ease up one of their gun control laws. You might want to hear this one, stick by and check it out. So if you've been on the channel for a while, you might remember in January while I was at SHOT Show, I told everybody that the United States Supreme Court had actually agreed to take up its first Second Amendment case in a decade. And that was the case of the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus the state of New York. And in that case, it was a direct challenge to the concealed carry permit in New York City. That permit in the city doesn't allow people to take their firearm anywhere unless it's basically ordained by the NYPD. So it was challenged, and the U.S. Supreme Court said, yeah, there's validity to this. This is possibly a violation of civil rights. It's obvious that the Second Amendment is being stomped on in New York. So they said, we're going to take this up. Almost immediately, literally almost immediately, New York tried to change things so that Daddy wouldn't take the case anymore. So they said, you know what, we're going to have NYPD change the way they enforce it. Not do away with the law, but we're just going to change things, hoping that SCOTUS would drop the case, and then once it's dropped, we'll say, yeah, we're going to go back to the other way because we outsmarted the system. Well, the Supreme Court saw through that, and they said, nope, it's going forward, the case will continue. Now, New York is trying something different. So this case, New York is trying to say that the case is moot. By doing that, they're saying that the court has no right to hear the case, and this week they actually they're going full bore. And when I mean full bore, they did something to loosen gun laws. Now, remember that this is a law that's been on the books for quite a long time in New York, and they have fought like rabid dogs to defend, saying that this is our right to do this to our subjects, and these subjects will comply with the king. And all of a sudden, in a week's time, that's changed. So I mentioned moot. So how does a state say that the case is moot and can no longer be heard? Well, basically, the law that's being challenged, they rescind prior to the law, prior to the case going forward. So if you catch what I'm trying to tell you, is New York is looking to make that law different. Not null and void because it's New York. But they're trying to change that law so that by the time the SCOTUS takes this case up in a couple, well, it's due for this term, but that could be springtime before it actually gets taken up. Fall, sometime between fall and spring. But they're trying to stop it at all costs. And why would they be trying to stop it? Because this could be, although there's not a big win here in the grand scheme of gun control, but this could fracture the very foundation that a lot of gun control in this country has built itself upon. Now, the city knew when they did this, half-assed changing of the laws, the way the NYPD was looking and enforcing these permits. They knew that there was a very good chance that the Supreme Court wouldn't, drop the case. But now they've gone into full attack mode, trying to make sure that the Supreme Court doesn't say that their laws are unconstitutional. Now, how is that happening? Assembly Bill A7752 entered the frame. It entered the state Senate through New York Senator Brian Kavanaugh. Okay, this is his bill. And the bill flew through the state legislature, and by July 3rd, okay, just by July 3rd, it was already heading to the governor's desk. Now, this bill specifically preempts the laws in the city on transporting firearms, which would make this case, the challenge, no longer valid because the state would preempt those laws in the city, meaning those laws don't count anymore. Now, if the fact that an anti-gun Democrat sponsored a law loosening control and the death grip on firearms in New York City and pushed it through an anti-gun Democrat body in New York as fast as it did, and it is rushed to one of the biggest, if not the biggest, anti-gun governor in the United States. If that doesn't make you go, then you are living under a rock. I think we can all smell the collusion going on right now between the state and the city in New York to try to make sure that this case doesn't go forward. And to make things, and to just make it even more ridiculous, the New York City, the city attorney, submitted a strongly worded letter to the United States Supreme Court, and he's basically asserting that the city's opinion is that no matter what the court or opposing counsel fought, the case is now moot. The city dared the United States Supreme Court to proceed with the case, daring them. That's how freaking cocky they are. And they promised that if the case goes forward, the city will make the case as messy as possible for the conservative wing of justices. So you can see the line is drawn in the sand. It's the anti-gunners are like, oh man, this is a good case. We know what happened with the last big cases the Supreme Court took up on the Second Amendment. There's a perceived, at least conservative tilt now in the Supreme Court, although it hasn't really played out that way. But New York City doesn't want to be the first to find out if it's an actual pro-gun court now, or if they're going to side with the anti-gunners. The city, New York, through its attorney, also made it clear that it wouldn't even respond to whether its law was constitutional or not, and only would argue that the case was moot. So no matter what the case will bring, New York is going to say, doesn't matter, the case is moot. Doesn't matter, the case is moot. We changed that law, it doesn't matter anymore. Even though we all know what's really going on. Now what I'll leave you with is this last question. Is this what a government body does when they think what they're doing is legal? They scramble at the last minute to change the law just so the United States Supreme Court won't take it up. There's a lot to be said about that. What do you think about this? Please leave it in the comments. I would love to see this one. Please pass this along. I would appreciate it if you would. The only way this news gets out is if you, the viewers, pass it on. Also, if you do me a favor, if you're on Instagram, go over to my Instagram and give me a follow. I got to get those numbers up. It's crazily low, and I got some plans in store, but to do that I need that swipe up thing. So if you could help me there, I would greatly appreciate it. Till we see each other again, this is Jared from Guns and Gadgets. You want the fastest news on the Second Amendment, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, you'll get it right here on the YouTube channel. Post numerous places. Hit subscribe here, hit the bell. On the bottom of every description in the video, you'll see the other places I post. Join there just in case one of these times YouTube goes away or whatever. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Be safe, stay vigilant, carry a weapon. Take care, everybody.